In the New Testament, there's a statement that's just absolutely central to the Christian faith, but at the same time, it's pretty shocking. It's the idea that Jesus Christ became a curse. It is such a powerful claim, and today we're going to unpack exactly what that means.
So, this is the big question, right? It's a dramatic, almost jarring phrase, but getting our heads around it is the key to unlocking the entire story of salvation that the Bible presents. And to do that, we've got to go right to the source.
And here it is, the core text from Galatians chapter 3. The Apostle Paul makes this incredibly bold claim. Christ became a curse for us. But to really truly grasp what that means, we can't just stay here in the New Testament. No, we have to go way back to where this idea of the curse of the law even came from.
Okay, so our journey starts in the Old Testament, because really, you can't understand the cure until you understand the disease. See, this whole concept of a curse wasn't just some random, scary thing. It was actually built right into the legal and spiritual framework of God's relationship with ancient Israel.
At the heart of God's covenant with Israel, there was this really stark choice. It was a relationship built on a super clear premise. If you obeyed the law, that led to blessings, life, prosperity, all good things. But if you disobeyed, that led to the opposite, a curse. It was a direct, unavoidable system of cause and effect.
So what is this curse we keep talking about? Well, it's not bad luck or some kind of magic spell. In this context, the curse is a theological term. It's God's righteous, just, and holy judgment against sin and rebellion. It's the official legal consequence for breaking the law.
And the law itself, it leaves absolutely no room for error. This verse from Deuteronomy is just so blunt. To avoid the curse, you had to follow every single word of the law. There was no grading on a curve. You didn't get credit for good intentions. It demanded perfect, 100% obedience. And this wasn't just some harsh rule. It was designed to show that perfection was an impossibly high standard for anyone to meet.
And that impossibly high standard, well, that leads us to our next point. Because what started as a specific curse of the law for one nation, ancient Israel, soon became a universal problem for all of humanity.
So the writers of the New Testament, they took this principle from the Old Testament and just blew it up. They expanded its scope. Their logic was pretty simple. If God's perfect standard of holiness is revealed in the law, then anyone who falls short of that standard is subject to its consequences, not just one group of people. And this verse from the book of Romans, this is what seals the deal. If all have sinned, then that means no one has ever perfectly kept the law. And if that's true, it means everyone everywhere is under the law's curse. From this point of view, the situation for humanity looks, well, pretty hopeless.
Okay, so if everyone is under this curse, what's the solution? This is where we get to the climax of the story, and it's a surprising, radical, and totally unexpected answer to this universal problem. The solution we find in the scriptures is just radical. Jesus, the only person who ever lived a sinless life and was therefore totally immune to the curse, willingly stepped in and took that curse upon himself. He became the substitute, taking the penalty that was meant for everyone else.
And this is the great paradox of the cross, isn't it? The only truly holy one, the one person who never broke the law, was treated as if he were the most unholy person to ever live. He was treated as if he were full of sin, and he absorbed the full, crushing force of the curse.
This verse from 2 Corinthians really explains the theology behind it. It wasn't just that Jesus died, it's that God orchestrated this incredible exchange. Jesus was made to be sin, meaning he bore its full penalty, so that in return, those who believe in him could receive his perfect righteousness.
And the sheer depth of this experience, it's captured in Jesus' cry from the cross. This wasn't just about physical pain. This was the spiritual agony of the curse, that profound, soul-crushing separation from God the Father that is the ultimate consequence of sin. He was truly forsaken, in our place.
So how in the world does this substitution actually work? Let's dive into the mechanics of this incredible transaction, what theologians often call the Great Exchange.
All right, the formal name for this doctrine is substitutionary atonement. I know it's a big phrase, but the idea behind it is actually simple and so powerful. Jesus died as a substitute. He stood in our place and took the penalty that we deserved.
And what's so fascinating is that this idea of a substitute isn't new to the New Testament at all. It was actually foreshadowed in the Old Testament ceremony of the scapegoat.
In this ritual, a goat would symbolically have all the sins of the people placed on its head, and then it would be driven out into the wilderness, physically carrying their sins away. Jesus is presented as the ultimate, final fulfillment of that very picture.
So, here's the crucial process. First, Jesus takes our sin and bears our curse. Then, we, through faith, get to receive his perfect righteousness. It is a complete transfer. Our debt gets paid, and his perfect record is credited to our account.
So, what does this all mean for us today? Let's look at the results of this great exchange, this completely new reality that exists because the curse has finally been lifted.
Because Jesus became a curse, those who believe experience this radical new freedom. It's freedom from the ultimate penalty of sin, that eternal separation from God. It's freedom from the day-to-day power that sin has over us. And it means all the promises of God are now available, not because we earn them, but through faith. It opens up a totally new relationship with God, one based on grace, not on trying to follow the law.
To put it as simply as possible, this is the core message. By becoming a curse for us, Jesus completely shattered the power of sin and death. He paid our debt in full, and in doing so, he canceled the curse forever.
And that really just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If the curse that separated humanity from God was lifted by this incredible act, what does it truly mean for you to live in that freedom? Right here, right now. That's a question worth exploring.